In this episode, we talk about around 20,000 Indians who might be deported during President Trump's illegal migration crackdown. We also talk about 5 Indian fishermen who were hurt after the Sri Lankan Navy opened fire on them near Delft Island. But first, we talk about the Punjab government seeking rupees 600 crore from the centre to set up narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances courts. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. Punjab faces a massive problem of substance abuse which has grown to an extent that it is disturbing the socio-economic balance of the state, causing an increase in crime, domestic violence and health issues. And a major medium through which drug trafficking happens in Punjab are drones that enter the state through the neighbouring areas. Earlier, the Border Security Force Punjab Frontier had said that in 2024, it recovered 294 drones, a substantial increase from 107 in 2023, and seized approximately 283 kgs of heroin. To solve this problem of drug trafficking and consumption, Punjab government has sought a one-time special assistance of rupees 600 crore from the centre to set up special NDPS courts or narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances courts for speedy disposal of drug-related cases. To learn in detail about the drug problem in Punjab, the efforts made by the Punjab government to solve the issue, and how rupees 600 crore from the centre might help the cause, we have the Indian Express's Kanchan Vasdev joining us. Kanchan, can you tell us about the extent of the drug problem that exists in Punjab?
Yes, Niharika. There are several studies to support that nearly 35% of the households in Punjab, they have at least one person with substance use disorder. There was a previous survey of over 1,200 households conducted by Government Medical College and Hospital Sector 32 in Chandigarh. They found that nearly 80% of households had one user. So this study was done in the border districts only, with trafficking of drugs from the neighboring countries. The present findings, they reflect the households having persons with problematic substance users rather than use, and they needed urgent interventions and de-addiction services. So it is not only restricted to men, but videos of even women undertaking injections of psychotropic drugs, they have gone viral in Punjab in the recent past. And in a recent meeting with the Union Home Minister, Amit Shah, Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann had also stated that drugs are now consumed by local population at an alarming level. So this is the degree.
Right, and tell us about these NDPS courts and how do they exactly work?
So NDPS courts are set up to ensure swift conclusion of trials involving cases where accused were charged with conscious and exclusive possession of commercial quantities of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. So these courts, they deal with only the cases related to narcotics and they allow faster disposal of the cases. That's why these are the special courts. They don't take up any other cases, only the drug-related cases.
Kanchan, in the beginning, as you said, that Punjab faces a massive problem of drug abuse and substance abuse. So, as far as these courts are concerned, how many cases related to drugs are pending in these courts?
Yes, this is actually a very big problem. The Punjab and Haryana High Court had last year rapped the Punjab government saying that they should do something. So, there are 35,000 cases pending. NDPS cases alone for the session trial till January 1st this year. And at the present rate of disposal, on an average, a session court takes 7 years to complete the trial, even if they don't add new cases. So the government has now estimated that this pendency would increase in the coming years. The pendency of these cases is 7 years currently, but it is estimated that in the coming 5 years, this average disposal time will increase from 7 years to 11 years. So more than 10 years. As of now, there are 35,000 pending cases, as I said, and in 11 years, the number would go up to 55,000. That is quite high, and it will keep piling up.
Right. And can you tell us about the NDPS Act and the kind of fund that is allocated for it?
So the NDPS Act, also called the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985, it is an act of Parliament of India that prohibits the production, manufacturing, cultivation, possession, sale, purchase, transport, storage, and consumption of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. So Punjab government has been spending money on it. Crores of rupees have been spent on it. And only last year, the government had set up anti-narcotics task forces, intelligence and technical unit so that they can gather the data and, they can arrest people, which was established with the cost of 11 crores. And this unit is equipped with advanced software systems tailored for the meticulous analysis of drug-related data, communication, social media engagements, financial transactions, and the detailed profiling of drug traffickers, which is like a very good data for the force which is acting against the drugs. So the support services unit that was also established with the cost of rupees 1.28 crore. This has state-of-the-art facilities, including upgraded offices space and modern infrastructure. So a budget allocation of about 15 crore was made to augment this anti-narcotic task force by the government. And 11 crore has been earmarked for upgrading the technical infrastructure, and rupees 3 crore is meant to improve its physical infrastructure. And now the government is seeking rupees 600 crore from the center government also as one-time special help.
And talking about that, Kanchan, why does the Punjab government require 600 crore from the center in order to be able to solve this issue?
Actually, Punjab has always been saying that it had faced militancy during the 1990s in the state. And it says that it has been fighting a proxy war with Pakistan. And earlier it was militancy, now it is the narco-terrorism. This is the term they are using. They are saying that Pakistan is trying to do drug trafficking and the drugs they reach Punjab, which is having the common border with Pakistan. So CM Maan has often stated that 552 kilometers of international border, which is shared with Pakistan, it is porous, and there is a fencing gap of around 43 kilometers, and there is a river also which has a span of 35 kilometers. So that makes it easier for the smugglers and bootleggers to come and enter this part of the country. So it makes the state vulnerable to this cross-border drug trafficking. So the state's location is also alongside the notorious Golden Crescent drug route. It also makes it a key transit point for narcotics and other contraband. So they have been increasing the vigil, and border fencing has also been done, but it is still being done through the drones. And drones, they enter the territory of India and they drop payloads of drugs and sometimes even arms, which is collected by the local youth from here. And the drones, they mostly don't get caught. And it has become a national problem now. But the government has been saying that Punjab is left all alone to fight it out. And it has meager resources, and the drug business is a Herculean task to fight it. So that is why the CM had sought national response to tackle the problem of drugs, stating that it can create imbalance in the socio-economic structure of the society. And central funding is also required to support, the initiatives being taken by the state government. Then rehabilitation is also required. Then a massive awareness campaign and law enforcement efforts are also required. That is why they had sought this 600 crores for special assistance for next 10 years.
Right. And can you tell us about the kind of efforts that have been made by the Punjab government in order to crack down these drugs and solve this entire issue?
See, the police has been arresting those traffickers in the past, and now they have also passed out several laws in which they will be forfeiting the properties of these drug lords, big fish in the business, and the traffickers also. And 294 properties have already been confiscated, which are worth rupees 127 crore. And these are of the big smugglers, which were forfeited last year. And there are 90 more properties worth rupees 25 crores, which will be forfeited this year because the final decision is pending with the competent authority. And the government has set up anti-narcotics task force and also second line of defense alongside the Indo-Pak border. And then they have a three-pronged strategy, which is enforcement, prevention, and rehabilitation. Because they think that enforcement is okay, prevention is also okay, but those youths who are into drugs, they need to be rehabilitated. Otherwise, it comes back to the square one. So this three-pronged strategy is required to eradicate the drugs from the state. So the Punjab police has also been promoting and creating awareness about Section 64A of the NDPS Act, which provides an opportunity to a drug consumer caught with a few grams of heroin or narcotic powder for rehabilitation. Earlier, these people were caught, like the consumers, the drug addicts, who used to possess small amounts of these narcotic powders, and they used to remain in jails for 10 years. So now the government has come up with this policy that these people actually get help. They get rehabilitated so that they can come back to the mainstream and not just be there in the jails. So the police is also succeeding in catching several big fish. As I told you, that properties of these rich people, they have been confiscated. And last year, it had also seized over 1,000 kilograms of heroin for the year, which was a big amount.
And next, we talk about President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown and how it might impact India. After his return as the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump has taken upon himself the responsibility to conduct what is being called the largest deportation operation of illegal immigrants in the history. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar was on a trip to Washington, D.C. to attend President Trump's inauguration ceremony. Post the ceremony, he met with the newly appointed Secretary of State Marco Rubio and discussed the issue of irregular immigration, among others. To understand what was discussed between the leaders of the two countries and what lies ahead as far as irregular migrants of Indian origin are concerned, we have the Indian Express's Divya A joining us. Divya, can you tell us about the first meeting that happened between Minister S. Jaishankar and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio?
So, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who was in Washington to attend President Donald Trump's inauguration on January 21. So, as soon as the new administration came in, Jaishankar held a bilateral meeting with his counterpart from the US, newly appointed Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And among other things about the scope of bilateral ties, both of them also discussed the issue of irregular immigration, which in simple terms would be Indian immigrants, Indian citizens going to the US without proper documentation, without proper migration visas and everything. In fact, that has been a huge issue which the Trump during his campaign also had mentioned several times that, he's going to deal with the issue of illegal immigrants. And he also said that he's going to deport them. In fact, in one of the first executive orders that the Trump administration passed just on the day of his inauguration was about, ending birthright citizenship as well. So you can see the way things were. So this didn't come as a surprise that the first bilateral meeting touched upon the issue of irregular immigration.
We have always taken the view that if there are any of our citizens who are not here legally, if we are sure that they are our citizens, we have always been, open to their legitimate return to India. So it's not a position unique to the United States. I do understand right now that there is a certain debate going on and a resulting sensitivity which is there. But we have been consistent, we have been very principled about it, and that remains our position, and I conveyed that very clearly to Secretary Rubio. At the same time,
and that is what Minister S. Jaishankar had to say regarding this issue and what he had discussed with Marco Rubio. And Divya, how many Indians currently face the risk of deportation?
Considering the estimates, which are based on the numbers of those who are held in various detention centers across the US and also who've already been given the removal orders, which is like the orders from the Department of Homeland Security in the United States, where there is no scope of appeal and the cases for migration have been dismissed and they've been identified as those who have to be deported or removed from the US soil immediately. So we estimate there are about more than 20,000 such Indian citizens. As per the reports of 2024 by the Immigration Department, around 2647, which is 2,647 Indians are at detention centers under the enforcement and removal operations of the Immigration and Customs Department, while there are another 17,900, about 18,000 of them, who are considered paperless and are not in detention, but however, they are under final removal orders. So considering these two figures, we arrive that there are about more than 20,500 such people who are expected to land back in India. However, Jaishankar had also made it clear that they first have to ensure that the numbers being given by the United States, India has to be sure that they are indeed Indian citizens. So that is also one part of the process which the Indian side will evaluate before it accepts those people as Indian citizens who had migrated to the US without proper documentation.
President Trump and Prime Minister Modi had a phone call on Monday where they discussed this issue as well. And upon being asked if PM Modi had agreed to take the illegal migrants, Trump said, quote, "He will do what's right. We are discussing," unquote. Now, Divya, can you tell us about USA's deportation practices and mostly what are the places where it receives irregular immigrants from?
See, we have to first understand what is deportation. Deportation is simply the process of removing a non-citizen, someone who has not been granted US citizenship or like permanent residence, like any legal form of visa, migrant visa, and is still staying in the US. So that violates the immigration law, and the US or any country is thereby, well within its right to detain and deport such non-citizens. So in the US, although this deportation of Indians has been happening, in fact, US deports non-citizens who come to US from as many as 195 countries, which probably is like almost every other country, although the numbers may vary. Most of them come from the usual places like Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, etc. However, among the developing countries, among our Asian countries, Indians migrating to the US without proper documentation through sometimes donkey routes and other things which we have been hearing about in recent times is more than those who, go from China, and almost more or less equal from those who take such routes through Brazil. In fact, late last year, I think it was in October 2024, we heard about a chartered flight from the US in one of the North Indian airports, which is likely to be Amritsar, which had 100 such cases, such people who were deported because they were irregular immigrants and who were under the removal orders. And then during a briefing with one of the senior officers of the Department of Homeland Security, we were told that around 1,100 Indian citizens were deported in the last 12 months, which is between September 23 and October 24, through several such chartered flight and even commercial flights. So that is where the figure stands as of now.
Right. And can you tell us about the process of deportation that is followed by USA? Like, how does it exactly work?
So non-US nationals who are called aliens as per the US technical terminology, who do not meet requirements governing their entry or continued presence in the US, they may simply be subject to removal. So if you are subject to removal, if you get your removal orders, you can appeal, but there is an expedited removal process which was created in the later years, which permits the Department of Homeland Security to just remove aliens arriving at a designated US port of entry without further hearing or review if they are inadmissible. So it is believed that many of the Indian nationals who are facing imminent deportation fall under this category of, expedited removal process. Most of them are likely to have been apprehended either at a designated port of entry or near the international border while they were trying to enter the US or shortly after entering the US.
And Divya, are there any rules or laws in place in the US as far as irregular immigrants and their deportation is concerned?
See, if someone is under expedited removal process, there is no review possible. However, only in a case where you can prove that, if you go back to your country and you have a threat to life, then you can apply for asylum and then you get a review. But that can also be rejected later, but that is the only possibility. However, once you get like a removal order, there is a provision that you can voluntarily leave the country, which is called voluntary deportation. But if you don't agree to that and you are in a detention center, then you will be deported. Then there will be stricter rules about your re-entry and everything. So it is the Immigration and Customs Department. They in fact operate their own air operations facility, and they have some charter flights and some air bases through which they carry on such evacuation or deportation operations. If like there's a sizable chunk of people, from a particular country who need to be deported. Otherwise, they can also be deported through commercial flights. So it operates both ways.
Right. And Divya, what kind of a pattern does irregular immigration and its resultant deportation follow as far as India and the US are concerned?
We have seen a report by the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department for last year, for 2024, which says that in 2024, non-citizens from dozens of countries passed through their 129 detention facilities. And these include, like we spoke earlier, over 2,600 Indians who are currently in detention. Significantly, even though we assume or we connect, the Trump regime with deportations, but we saw a large number of deportations in the last 1 year during the Biden regime. So it is being attributed to a lot of intensive diplomatic efforts by the Department of Homeland Security and the Customs Department, which resulted in increased number of charter flights in 2024 to countries in the Eastern Hemisphere. In fact, this also included the first large charter removal flight to China since 2018, as well as big charter flights stopping in Albania, Angola, Egypt, Ghana, Uzbekistan, Senegal, and Romania. So we can assess that they have been very proactive with the deportations and removals in the last 1 year. And it is only going to increase in the coming years with Trump administration really focusing on this aspect. And even last week, we saw 538 people were arrested, illegal immigrants, and there were also some deportations which were carried out within the first 2-3 days of the Trump regime. So we see a lot of this, narrative and a lot of talk about illegal immigration and deportation and detention coming into play in the coming few weeks.
And in the end, we talk about 5 Indian fishermen getting hurt after the Sri Lankan Navy opened fire on them near Delft Island yesterday. India registered a strong protest with the Sri Lankan Acting High Commissioner in New Delhi, who was called to the Ministry of External Affairs. The Ministry of External Affairs said, quote, "Our High Commission in Colombo has also raised the matter with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Sri Lankan government." Unquote. 2 of 13 fishermen from Karaikal, Puducherry and Tamil Nadu sustained serious injuries during the arrest, news agency PTI reported, citing a Puducherry government official. The official also added that both of them have been hospitalized at Jaffna Teaching Hospital and are under medical supervision. 3 other fishermen sustained minor injuries and have been treated. The remaining fishermen have been taken into custody. Indian consulate officials in Jaffna have visited the fishermen at the hospital to seek their welfare and are extending all possible assistance to the fishermen and their families. The arrests by the Sri Lankan Navy took place after the group of fishermen allegedly crossed the international maritime boundary around Delft Island and were fishing in the territorial waters of the island nation. A mechanized vessel used by the fishermen has also been seized, PTI reported. A release from the Office of the Chief Minister of Puducherry said that CM N. Rangasamy wrote to the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar requesting him to take appropriate steps on priority with the government of Sri Lanka for the release of all the arrested fishermen. Rangasamy said in his letter that 6 fishermen from Karaikal, an enclave of Puducherry, and 7 from Tamil Nadu have been taken into custody by the Sri Lankan Navy. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.